Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny with a midweek update for you, and I'm reading from Galatians chapter 5, parts of verses 22 and 23. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. I so love this image of the fruit of the Spirit. And I love how we really understand it better when we look back to John chapter 15. We read part of John chapter 15 a couple of weeks ago, but it's in that passage where Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Abide in me, and you will bear much fruit. When we are abiding in that flow, when we are rooted deeply in God, and when the Holy Spirit is flowing through us, connecting us with God, connecting us with one another, helping us to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, strength, helping us to love one another as God has loved us, then all these things, this fruit, burst forth from us. And I love to really think about it. Is there fruit coming out of me? And I also love how this connects back to the passages around Jubilee, for example. Joy is one of those words we talked about last summer as we talked about God's time to shine, this idea of Jubilee and Jubilee freedom, liberation that comes when we are free in God, in God's Spirit. But one of the marks of Jubilee was that people could eat freely of the fruit of the vine, and there was fruit that came without having to be tilled and cultivated. In other words, the land got rest and still produced fruit, enough for there to be enough for everyone to eat, along with all the provisions that had been there before too. But there's this way that the fruit of the Spirit is like walking along the trails, here in New Jersey, and finding a grove of raspberries or blueberries, and just knowing that they're so good, so delicious, and they're free. They're right there for us to enjoy and to take these delectable bites of. So we're continuing to look at a contagious joy, and this week we're going to look at it connected to it being one of the fruits of the Spirit, and how it's connected really to this liberating work that God is doing in us, such that it frees us to be contagious and available to others around us. So I invite you to play with this image of the fruit of the Spirit. And there are 9 fruit of the Spirit there. I'm just talking about joy in this moment. There's so much we can explore here. Feel free to look at any of those fruit, but I do in particularly invite you to look at joy as a fruit of the Spirit. It's helpful, I think, on occasion to, or even regularly, to say, what are the fruits that the Spirit is producing in me? In what ways are my roots grounded in God, in the ways of Jesus Christ? Is my soul, how are my roots, how is my being, my body, my soul, my hands, my feet, my spirit, my mind, how am I being fed by the Spirit that lives in me, such that it can produce good fruit like joy? I know that occasionally I look at myself and I go, there isn't much joy here these days. And then I ask that question, I ask it of you and I ask it of myself, not to produce shame, not to produce guilt, not to say, you're not being a good person right now, but more just like we would do if we were tending our garden, right? We look at it with those gardening kinds of eyes. Oh, well, what's preventing this good fruit from springing forth out of us? Is it a problem with the roots, or is it a problem with the soil? Is it a problem of watering or sunlight or nourishment? Is there something that needs to be pruned away? Is there something that is a problem with the vine and the branches, for example? Where is that joy being cut off? Where is the Spirit that produces that joy being cut off? Are there ways that I'm feeling or experiencing bondage rather than liberation? Is there a way that that I am not trusting, that, or I need to work on the trust with God? Last week we talked about how joy is a lot more about trust than it is about a feeling. So where is that needs to be tended, like a gardener, like God the gardener would tend that plant, that tree, that vine that is me, that is you. So I invite you to play with these images and to just see, where is joy flourishing in your life? Where is it not? And what might God be inviting you to do, to tend this garden, or to let God tend the garden, which might be an even more apt description of what happens. Where do you need to let God in to tend the vine, to tend the tree, to tend this beautiful, wonderful God-created garden that is you, so that joy and freedom that comes alongside it can flourish? So, friends, we've had such a full May and June, lots of things. This past weekend we baptized and brought into membership several people. You're going to be introduced to those folks through happenings here over the next several weeks. We also have a really exciting thing that's happening this week. Pastor Taylor, so Taylor Necochea, who's been our intern, who's been a member of the church for the past 3 years, who has interned with us the past 2 years, who just graduated from Princeton Theological Seminary. She has been approved and appointed as a part-time local pastor with us. I shouldn't say it that way. She's being appointed as a local pastor with us. That part-time is technical. She'll be working full-time with us in our multi-site system. So she will be sharing much of her energy and attention with Princeton UMC, but also with Kingston UMC and with other churches that are exploring becoming part of this multi-site ministry as well. So we welcome on July 1st, Pastor Taylor onto our clergy team, onto our ministry staff. All of our clergy, if you will recall, are, including me, are appointed really to the whole multi-site ministry that's still emerging. There's so much to figure out around all of that. But we are not only belonging to just Princeton UMC or Kingston UMC, we are shared in some way amongst the whole. I am still Princeton's campus pastor and the lead pastor of the whole, so you're not experiencing a whole lot of change, but just a reminder of this. Taylor will be focusing a lot of her time on children's ministry and adult formation and on our online campus. So she'll be, she's got a lot on her plate, but as Evangeline, we say goodbye to her in the context of children's ministry. Taylor will be picking up where she left off, where Evangeline leaves off, but it will also be a little different, not only because Taylor is different, but because our system is changing some as well. But I encourage you to reach out to Taylor in some way to welcome her. We'll continue to try to keep it helping us all understand exactly what her role is and how it fits into this bigger whole. But we are so delighted, and she is so delighted. This was kind of her dream after graduation from seminary, to be able to continue to be with us, and through a lot of different things coming together, that is possible. So please welcome her. We'll also later in July be entering into a new phase with the multi-site ministry. Of a design team is beginning. There are 5 churches now that are in conversation about this. 2 of those are Kingston UMC and Princeton UMC, and then there are 3 others that will be involved. I'll try to keep updating you here, but know that in a few weeks there's a design team that's beginning to meet, that will continue to meet monthly, and to keep looking at what this can look like, how God can use each of our 5 congregations to build something new, to build a new church configuration, a new church structure, to impact our region in big ways for God's kingdom. So stay tuned more for that. But those are 2 big announcements that we have today. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday with communion. We're going to celebrate communion, and as always, it is such a joy, such a privilege to be on this journey with you. Remember that you are enough because God is enough. Thanks be to God for that and for you. Take care. Blessings.